Hey, it's Adam, the Backpack Theory Podcast, where we unpack past experiences to help define a better future. Today, I want to talk a little bit about unpacking mistakes or lessons learned. Got a great story from you guys. When I was 19 years old, I was 1 year removed from high school. I lived with my parents in their home here in Oklahoma City. And during that time, I was attending a university for my first semester. Didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I was just trying to figure out, the ins and outs of trying to be an adult while still living in my parents' house. I had always held jobs. I had always worked ever since I can remember because my dad always made us work and always taught us the value of a dollar. But when I was 19, I had kind of fallen into a group of friends that were potheads. And so during that time, I actually started smoking a lot of pot. That actually bridged from high school. So in high school, I had a bunch of buddies smoke pot together. That's kind of who I fit in with. And as I got older, it just kind of continued. So I'm going through college. I'm kind of, experimenting with like, what exactly I want to do with my life. And in that first semester, I really don't think I made it to, I think that I literally passed one class, which was English because my teacher was really, really cool. And I was always like, had these outlandish paper ideas. But besides that, in my spare time, I actually was a Pizza Hut delivery driver. Well, while I was delivering pizza, I was also selling pot. I figured out that after you graduate from high school and you have to start paying for your own things except housing because my parents, were gracious enough to let me stay there. Selling pot was something that was, pretty easy to do. I didn't make a lot of money off of it, but it did support my smoking habits. And, during that time, I had a bunch of buddies that we would get together. We'd buy, a large amount and then we'd split it up and then we'd sell it off. And one day, one of my higher up suppliers texted me and asked me if I would sell him a larger amount than what I would normally sell. I thought it was kind of weird, but just, didn't really think twice about it. Asked me to go meet him at this public area the next day. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Go pick it up, drive up to a grocery store actually, pull into the grocery store parking lot, park. I'm not really thinking twice about it. On my mind, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go get baked with my buddy right after this, and I got Pizza Hut delivery tonight, so like, my life is going pretty well. So as I'm sitting in the parking lot, time's kind of clicking by. I get a text from him. He's like, "Hey, will you come down the street to this convenience store?" I'm just kind of like, man, like that's just kind of, I'm kind of getting sketched out at this point. And that early in the morning is one of the only times I wasn't baked. So, I mean, it was like true paranoia. And I'm just like sitting there. And as I'm sitting there, I look at my rearview mirror and I see this super dark cop, like cop looking car, like pull behind me, like unmarked. And it kind of goes around, and, like swerves around behind me. And I'm just like, all right, now I'm super sketched. Then I'm sitting there and another unmarked dark blue vehicle drives behind me. At this point, I'm like freaking out. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, like something's wrong. Like all the emergency alarms are going off in my head. And I'm just like, this is a bad situation to be in. How did I get here? And I really, I vividly remember in that moment thinking, like, how in the world did I get here and how do I get out of this? Because I knew what was going down. And in my mind, I was like, well, I need to get a car. I throw the pot in the sewer. Like, what do I do? And so what I ended up doing is I ended up just taking the chance, throwing the car in reverse and trying to pull out. Well, at the moment that I backed out and tried to pull forward, there were literally like four cops that pulled up in front of me, four that pulled behind me, all busted out their guns, like pulled out the bullhorn, like the whole deal. I guess that the guy that I was supposed to be, selling that pot to actually ended up, hey, surprisingly enough, he actually ended up getting busted for a massive amount. And then he had ratted me out as like his supplier, which was completely made up. But, as I'm sitting there, I mean, everything's going in slow motion. Cops roll up. pull me out of the car. They're like, where are the guns? Where's all this? I didn't have a gun at that point in my life. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I just kept my mouth shut. Ended up going to jail, my local county jail, and then just kind of sat there. I'll never forget sitting in that cell and just going, oh my God, what am I going to tell my parents? Like, what am I going to tell my parents? Like, what am I going to do about this? Like, how am I going to get out of the situation? How am I going to lie my way out of the situation? How am I going to manipulate it? Like, and just all these thoughts are going through my head. So I finally get transported from the local one down to the county jail. And as I'm sitting in there and standing in line, I'm like, oh my God, I get one call. Who am I going to call? And the number one person I respected the most in my life, but I didn't want to call was my father. And so I'll never forget picking up that phone, putting his number in, calling, he picked up. And at this point, like, I'm like distressed, like reality is setting in that I'm really sitting in this situation. I just start bawling hysterically. I mean, they've done all the fright techniques, shut me in, a little cell. Like, and I haven't talked to anybody, haven't had any food, like nothing. And this has been like almost 12 hours now. So I call my dad and he picks up. And I'll never forget the words that came out of his mouth because it taught me a lesson that I'll never forget. And I go, Dad, it's me. I'm in jail. And I said, I need you to come get me. And he listened. And I know that my dad at this moment made the hardest decision he's ever made in his life, but by far in my life, the best decision he's ever made. He said, well, son, you're going to have to figure that one out. I'm going to have to talk to your mom. We're going to have to discuss this, but for right now, you're on your own. And we love you. We care about you. But unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. And told me how much he loved me. Said he'd be in contact. Hung up the phone. I know in that moment, that was one of the hardest decisions my dad's ever made in his life. I know it. But for me, that was where it went from being a mistake to a lesson learned. Had my dad just come and bailed me out, had my dad just pulled me out because it would have been easier. Had my dad just said, you know what, we're just going to look past this and we're going to clean up for him. We're just going to get through it. Probably would have never learned the lesson. But he didn't. He left me and I ended up staying in county jail for about 12 days. Hardest 12 days of my life. My first cellmate, his name was Creeper. Dude was completely iced out. And I kid you not, like, kept on telling me because I was crying in the corner, and he just kept on telling me, "Hey, SA, you need to stop crying." I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. But like being through that experience, meeting those people, like gave me a completely different perspective on life. But I had to go through that 12 days to learn my lesson that it wasn't worth it. And that to me has always stuck with me because like whenever you are going through hardships, sometimes it requires pain. Sometimes it requires time in order to learn the lesson. I feel like mistakes are something that just happen and we basically blow them off. It's just a mistake. It's just a mistake. You don't learn from it. Mistakes can be repetitive. Mistakes are something that you can do over and over again because you're not actually learning from it. You know, after I finally got out of jail, my parents finally put it up, but they just told me they put the money up for my bond. And they said, but you're going to pay us back. You've got to hire your own attorney. You've got to get through the court system. Like, this is your thing. You need to find somewhere to live. Like, this is your thing. And so I ended up finding a local attorney. And the hilarious thing about it was I ended up actually lying to my attorney, trying to downplay what I had done because I thought it would get me out of trouble. Well, whenever he brought the information I told him to, the prosecution, they ended up blowing the thing out of proportion because I lied. And I learned a very valuable lesson at that point in time in my life was that you don't lie to your attorney and you don't lie to anybody that you're hiring for professional work. Now, I wish that I could say that 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 was a mistake I made because through my life I continued to not utilize that. The lesson that I learned was taking the shortcut whenever it comes to making money or to get by never works. The lesson I also learned that I'll never put my parents through ever again is the fact that, like, your parents have so much unconditional love for you the majority of the time that it's harder for them. I knew how hard that was on my parents, and I never want to put them through that experience ever again. And I've been fortunate enough to where I have not. And I've never repeated that same mistake that I made again because I learned my lesson the hard way. I've never been back to jail. By the grace of God, I never will ever again. But I think that it's cool that, you can choose to look at your past as a mistake, right? And if you choose to look at it mistake, then you're going to probably continuing to make those mistakes over and over again. I look at that as a lesson learned. I look at that as a hardship. I look at that as something now that happened in my life to where I can take that lesson and I can share that with others and not be ashamed of it. Because I'm really not ashamed of it. I mean, it's something that happened. I don't mind being transparent. I don't mind throwing it out to the public because it's just something that happened in life because those things are going to happen. But you can't let those things in life like define who you're going to be moving forward. I mean, I feel like whenever it comes to the prison system right now, that like people get so punished and so jaded that they get set up to go and offend over and over and over again because they are looked at as a mistake, right? They're treated as a mistake. Like, hear me loud and clear. You are not a mistake. You are not created by mistake. You were not born on this planet as a mistake. You're going to go through life and you are going to go through hardships. And there are lessons that you're going to learn that are going to absolutely suck. But if you can go back and you can unpack those things in your life and you don't let them define who you are today, you can become a better person moving forward. I struggle with this every day on other areas of my life. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. But accepting the fact that I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be perfect, the thing that helps me be able to move forward. Looking back at that thing that happened in my life whenever I was 19 years old, I can look back at it now and I can share that with someone else whenever they're going through a hard time. And they think that maybe I have it all together. I don't. Never did. Now I've got a great faith in God. I've got a great relationship with God. Like, I mean, I've gone through some trials and tribulations that have helped and they have taught me lessons and I'm still learning those lessons. I'll still be learning those lessons till the day I die, and that's okay. But I know without a reasonable doubt that those things weren't mistakes. But that is a choice that you have to make whenever it comes to your perception of things that have happened to your life and whenever it comes to those hardships in life. If you look at other people that have come into your life and you go, man, wish that person had never come. That was a big mistake. You're probably going to find some more people that are going to make more mistakes in your life. If you look at people that have come in your life and you go, man, that was a valuable lesson that I learned from that person. Maybe we didn't agree about everything. Maybe we didn't see eye to eye, but I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about that person. That person taught me some things about myself. Or you can just chalk it up, man, that was a mistake. Change your perception. What is your perspective? What are you setting yourself up for? Where is your life going? Are you looking for more mistakes that other people are making around you? Are you looking for more lessons to learn? Are you looking to gain more knowledge and wisdom? Are you looking for more excuses? I know my human nature says, hey, let's just make some more excuses. My counselor told me something great last week whenever I was in therapy. I went in and lit into him. I was like, man, my life is terrible right now because this and this and this and this and this. And here's what someone has done to me. And it's completely uncalled for and it's completely ridiculous and for me. And after I'd gone about through my 5-minute rant, my therapist looks at me and he goes, Adam, in life, you've got two hands, right? You got this hand over here, and this hand is the one we always want to concentrate on. This is the hand of excuses. This is the hand of mistakes. This is the hand of all the things that we've gone through and all of the symptoms. It's really easy to look at the symptoms, and it's really easy to blame all the symptoms and make excuses and blame all of our mistakes in life. The hard thing to do is look at the other hand. And the other hand holds the secret. The other hand is if you choose to look past all of the symptoms and you start looking at all of the lessons, you can actually learn if you want to. So, do you want to learn from your lessons, or do you want to make some more excuses about your mistakes? Hope you've enjoyed this week. Thank you for tuning in. I've got some great guests coming up. I've got a local artist, Jay Sage. He was supposed to be on yesterday, but we had a scheduling conflict, so he should be on next week. Also, have some other local artists and then some other people lined up over the next couple months. So, if you're tuning into this, thank you for taking your time to listen. I'm truly grateful. Hopefully, me sharing that lesson that I learned might touch you and help you whenever it comes to unpacking mistakes and turning them into lessons learned. God bless. Have a good day.